Of all of the theories about the future of Star Wars, the one that has quickly taken over the fandom is what's known as Reyla, the idea that Kylo Ren and Rey will end up together as a romantic couple. The theory goes that Kylo will be redeemed either in The Last Jedi or Episode 9, and it will be Rey who brings him back to the light. Kylo and Rey will then fall in love in a sort of Beauty and the Beast type scene. Their coupling will be the main romance of the new trilogy, the equivalent of Anakin and Padme in the prequel trilogy and Han and Leia in the original trilogy. The first reaction a lot of people have to this theory is laughter. But the more one delves into the evidence, the less ridiculous it sounds. Reyla shippers have been picking apart The Force Awakens and analyzing interviews and merchandise for the past 2 years looking for clues. While sometimes fans read into things too much, there really is quite a bit to back up this idea. Here are the most compelling pieces of evidence that Kylo and Rey will end up as a romantic couple by the end of the new Star Wars trilogy. 1. The novelization of The Force Awakens suggests Kylo has compassion for Rey. Kylo interrogates Rey in Star Wars The Force Awakens Lucasfilm. We get a better idea of how Kylo Ren might be feeling about Rey in the novelization of The Force Awakens. During a scene in which Kylo is talking to Snoke, the latter says that Kylo is being hindered by his feelings towards Rey, saying you have compassion for her. Kylo seems defensive in response, saying, no, never. Compassion for an enemy of the Order clearly were meant to take away that he really does have compassion for her, as Snoke suggests. Fans may recall that compassion is described in Attack of the Clones as being unconditional love and essential to a Jedi's life. In general, Reyla supporters have really picked apart the way Kylo treats Rey during The Force Awakens, especially during the interrogation scene. As they point out, it's radically different from the scene where Poe is interrogated earlier in the movie. While that latter sequence was dark and aggressive, Kylo is kinder to Rey, picking her up and escorting her away like a bride rather than having her dragged to the ship by stormtroopers. In the novelization, Rey observes that Kylo has a sensitive face. We get the sense that there's much more here than just a standard confrontation between hero and villain. 2. J.J. Abrams has compared Rey to a princess and Kylo Ren to a prince. Kylo makes Rey faint, but catches her. Giphy on the Blu-ray commentary for The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams provides some insights into the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey. He mostly tries to be vague about what's next for them, but interestingly, he describes Rey as a princess and Kylo Ren as a prince. While speaking about Mos Castle, Abrams says that Rey is drawn to this place, almost like Cinderella. Abrams later says that when Kylo takes off his mask, he looks like a sort of prince. These are not just two random, unrelated comparisons. In another scene, Abrams says that Star Wars is a fairy tale, which means that you're probably going to want to have a castle, and a prince and a princess. He's obviously implying that there are a prince and a princess within The Force Awakens. Kylo and Rey are the only characters who he talks about using these terms. If there is a prince to raise princess, Kylo seems like the only possibility. John Boyega has repeatedly said that Finn and Rey are just friends, and Rey and Poe don't even meet in the movie. Perhaps most importantly, Abrams also says on this Blu-ray commentary that Kylo is someone who Rey is going to have a very interesting relationship with moving forward. And finally, during the scene where Kylo is trying to get the map out of Rey, Abrams observes that Kylo could just take it whenever he wants to, and so you get a sense that there might be something else going on here. 3. There's a mysterious connection between them. Kylo Ren and Rey battling in The Force Awakens. Lucasfilm. The novelization of The Force Awakens states that there's a mysterious connection between Kylo Ren and Rey, and the official Star Wars website has really hammered this point home. On the Star Wars Databank, the official canon database of characters, it stated that Kylo Ren is someone with whom Rey shared a strange connection. Another section states that a mysterious connection seemed to link the two. The databank makes mention of this connection a third time, at one point stating, Kylo confronted the young woman who'd escaped from Jakku with BB-8 and felt himself puzzled by a strange connection he felt with her. Yet another section states that during the Battle of Starkiller Base, Kylo sensed his destiny and Rey's were somehow intertwined, but how this could refer to a familial connection, which would make sense if Rey is really the daughter of Luke Skywalker and she's therefore Kylo's cousin. But it could also point to a romantic connection and the fact that they're destined to be together like the prince and the princess in a fairy tale. 4. Someone, possibly Kylo, calls Rey sweetheart in the novelization Rey and BB-8 in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Lucasfilm. Another piece of evidence we can take from the books is some additional dialogue during Rey's vision sequence at Mos Castle. In the novelization, she hears a voice during the flashback telling her, "It'll come back, sweetheart. I promise." She clearly has some emotional attachment to the person saying it, as she refers to this as that voice. Right after this mysterious voice tells her that he'll come back for her, Kylo Ren pops out from behind a tree, and the flashback ends with Rey falling backward just like in the movie. She had also heard his voice earlier in the novel. A common fan theory is that this is actually Kylo Ren. At another point in the novelization, it stated that Rey recognized Kylo because she had seen this man before, in a daydream. In a nightmare. Pablo Hidalgo, member of the Lucasfilm Story Group, confirmed that the original script identifies this as Amon's voice. It's also been stated that Rey does not remember her parents, but yet she recognizes this voice. So it doesn't really make sense for it to be her father. The word sweetheart certainly calls to mind the relationship between Leia and Han Solo. Han was always calling Leia sweetheart in the original trilogy, so perhaps Ben Solo picked up more from his dad than we thought. But Abrams says in The Force Awakens commentary that Rey and Kylo had never met until their encounter on Takodana. This suggests that if the voice is Kylo, it was actually a vision of the future and not a memory of the past. That points towards Rey even more than before. After all, why else would Kylo refer to Rey as sweetheart in the future unless they have a romantic connection? 5. Maz says Rey is where she needs to be as she meets Kylo Rey and Man talk just before she meets Kylo Ren. Giphy Maz Kanata seems to have a pretty good sense of the character's destinies. There are a few lines of hers that point in the Reyla direction. In The Force Awakens, Maz tells Rey that the belonging she seeks is not behind her but is ahead. Right after this scene, Rey runs out of the castle and meets Ben for the first time. She also tells Rey that her parents aren't coming back, but that there's someone else who still could. Rey says Luke, but Maz doesn't actually confirm that this is the right answer. She may have been referring to Ben, who could come back as in be redeemed. Plus, in the novelization, not long after Rey leaves, Finn asks Maz where she is. Maz replies that she's where she needs to be. That's a weird thing to say considering Rey is about to be kidnapped by the main villain of the movie, but it makes sense if Rey's destiny is with Kylo Ren. 6. They're paired together in the Forces of Destiny toyline. Kylo Ren and Rey dolls in the Forces of Destiny toyline. Disney. Earlier this year, Disney began releasing a new series of toys in a line called Forces of Destiny. One of these toy sets pairs Rey and Kylo together in one package. That stood out to a lot of fans since it's not as if there is a toy package of Leia being paired with Darth Vader or Obi-Wan being paired with Palpatine. None of the other Forces of Destiny toys pair two humans together, let alone the main character with the main villain, although there are some where a human is paired with a droid or an alien. The toy set also looks quite a bit like similar Disney packages of princes and princesses together, i.e. Cinderella and Prince Charming, Snow White and Prince Florian, and Tiana and Prince Naveen. Granted, there's always a chance it means nothing and that Disney just wanted to sell the two main characters of the new trilogy together. But it's certainly interesting, especially after Abrams himself compared the characters to a princess and a prince. 7. Rian Johnson says Rey and Kylo are two halves of one protagonist. Rey reacts as Kylo points his lightsaber at her. Giphy Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, has given quite a few interesting quotes about Rey and Kylo Ren that have gotten Reyla shippers excited. While speaking to the New York Times in September, for instance, Johnson said that Kylo and Rey are like two halves of our protagonist. This fits in with the idea that Kylo and Rey represent the dark side and the light. With The Last Jedi, we've been getting a lot of hints throughout the marketing that the movie might come to the conclusion that having all light with no dark and vice versa is actually not a good thing. Rey suggests this by talking in the teaser about light darkness and a balance, and Luke saying that it's so much bigger. What better way to show a true balance between dark and light than by having the characters who represent dark and light, and who are two halves, come together to create something entirely new together. 8. The new trailer ends on Kylo reaching out to Rey. For a lot of fans, Reyla seemed like a crazy conspiracy theory until the most recent trailer. That trailer ends, of course, with Rey saying that she needs someone to show me my place in all this. Kylo Ren reaches out to Rey. This calls to mind Kylo offering to be Rey's teacher and show her the ways of the Force in The Force Awakens. On the one hand, this could be Lucasfilm's way of making the audience worried that Rey is going to fall to the dark side in the movie. On the other hand, it could also be Lucasfilm's way of preparing audiences for the fact that there's going to be a relationship between Rey and Kylo in the movie that isn't entirely hero against villain. This might come as a shock to some viewers who haven't been keeping up with the Reyla tumblers, so the theatrical trailer would ease them into it. And speaking of being eased into it, the entire cast and crew of the movie has emphasized for the past 6 months that The Last Jedi is unexpected and shocking. The main protagonist and the main antagonist of the last movie beginning a romantic relationship would certainly qualify. 9. Daisy Ridley's comments about Rey's relationship with Kylo. Daisy Ridley. Alberto E. Rodriguez. Getty Images. Daisy Ridley recently gave an interview with Yahoo Japan in which she talks about Rey's relationship with Kylo Ren. One of her quotes made Reyla subscribers everywhere. Getty. The article is in Japanese, but a rough translation of it reads, "What you should pay attention to is that The Last Jedi is putting out the message that things might not always be so clearly black and white. The dividing line between good and evil is becoming more and more ambiguous, and you could say that the relationship between Rey and Kylo symbolizes that. What she means there is open to interpretation, but one reading of it is that Rey realizes in the movie that Kylo Ren is not all bad and that fans may see two people who are both struggling with their powers come together." Speaking of interviews, Ridley and Adam Driver recently did an interview together in which they constantly talk about becoming best friends on The Last Jedi. They barely did any interviews together prior to The Force Awakens. But here they are being paired together and talking about getting along well on set, almost as if their relationship is a lot different in this movie. 10. Nobody involved in the movies has debunked it. Star Wars The Force Awakens cast members John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, and Adam Driver. Ed Jones. FBGT Images. As one fan pointed out on Reddit, a final piece of evidence suggesting that Reyla might really happen. Nobody related to Star Wars has explicitly denied it. If the idea of Kylo and Rey getting together is as ridiculous as some claim, why haven't Ridley, Driver, Johnson, or anyone else just said that? It's not as if, as a general rule, they never debunk fan theories. After all, Ridley once explicitly stated that Rey is not Han Solo's daughter, even though that was a popular theory. In addition, even though thousands of fans ship Rey and Finn together, Boyega has repeatedly said that the two are just friends. One would assume that if Rey and Kylo Ren never have any sort of a romance, some member of the cast or crew would make a similar comment. But that has never happened. On the contrary, Ridley brought it up in an interview, saying that it's the questions he gets asked the most after who Rey's parents are. She also said that she found it amazing and really cool. That sounds an awful lot like what actors say about fan theories that are true when they don't want to give anything away. At the very least, Ridley did not debunk the idea as ridiculous in the way she debunked the idea of Rey being Han Solo's daughter. So heading into The Last Jedi, the fan theory remains a possibility. Check out the cheat sheet on Facebook. Page 2. The Big Bang Theory. CBS. When The Big Bang Theory first premiered in 2007, no one knew it would become the massive phenomenon that it is today. 10 seasons in, the CBS series remains one of the most popular and widely watched sitcoms on TV. With season 11 now on the way, we decided to take a look back at some of our favorite episodes from the show's run so far. Well, there are obviously a lot to choose from. These 12 episodes listed in chronological order are some of the biggest standouts, highlighting the best of Sheldon, Penny, Leonard and the rest of the gang. 1. The Middle-earth Paradigm. Season 1, Episode 6. The guys attend a Halloween party at Penny's apartment, dressed in exactly the kind of nerdy costumes you'd expect. Sheldon as the Doppler effect, Leonard as Frodo, Raj as Thorpe, and Howard as Robin Hood. Needless to say, they don't exactly fit in with Penny's friends, making for a series of hysterically awkward encounters. By the end of the night, Leonard and Penny have shared their first kiss and Raj wakes up in bed with a random girl. The episode is the perfect showcase of what The Big Bang Theory is about, at least in early seasons, four nerdy guys trying desperately to fit in and sometimes, against all odds, actually succeeding. 2. The Barbarian Sublimation. Season 2, Episode 3. In this episode, Sheldon gets Penny hooked to the world of gaming by introducing her to the PC game, Age of Conan. Penny, sick of getting nowhere in her personal and professional life, quickly becomes addicted, foregoing hygiene and work to spend days playing, eating Cheetos, and bugging Sheldon for ways to get to the next level. It's one of the best early examples of the funny and unexpectedly warm relationship between Sheldon and Penny Akasheni. Plus, Penny realizing that she has to snap out of it while talking to Howard makes for a hilarious moment. 3. The Panty Pinata Polarization. Season 2, Episode 7. More of the best of Sheldon and Penny. After the latter gets 3 behavioral strikes, Sheldon banishes her from their apartment. Unlike Leonard, Raj, and Howard, Penny refuses to apologize, setting off the prank war. She sets off his neurotic tendencies by telling him she's touched his food, while he blocks Penny from using their Wi-Fi. But it's Penny that gets the last laugh. She calls Sheldon's mother, who forces him to apologize. Talk about sweet revenge. 4. The Bath Item Gift Hypothesis. Season 2, Episode 11. It's Christmas time and after finding out that Penny has gotten him a gift, Sheldon finds himself forced to reciprocate the gesture. Without knowing exactly how much she's spent on him, he can't make up his mind and ends up buying a bunch of gift baskets to cover his bases. When it comes time to actually exchange gifts, Penny presents him with something beyond his wildest dreams, a napkin used and signed by Star Trek's Leonard Nimoy. Cue a hilarious Sheldon-sized freakout that results in the rarest of occurrences, a hug from Sheldon to Penny. 5. The Adhesive Duct Deficiency, Season 3, Episode 8. Leonard, Raj, and Howard go on a camping trip to watch a meteor shower, while Sheldon decides to stay home. Once there, the boys accept cookies from some other campers, only to find out they are laced with drugs. They spend the rest of their trip hilariously stoned, telling each other their deepest and, in Howard's case, grossest, and desperately searching for food, which they find in the form of an "I love you" brisket in Howard's backpack. That alone would make for a great episode, but hilarity is also ensuing back in their apartment building. In another classic example of Shenny, Penny slips in the shower and needs Sheldon's help getting dressed and going to the hospital. When Penny returns on some very strong painkillers, she finally gets to give Sheldon a taste of his own medicine and makes him sing Soft Kitty. 6. The Einstein Approximation, Season 3, Episode 14. In this episode, Sheldon is once again grappling with a puzzle he can't solve, specifically, a physics problem about electron behavior. After enduring sleepless nights and going to all kinds of crazy lengths to try to find an answer, he decides he needs to take on a menial job that will allow him to free up his mind. He ends up masquerading as a waiter at the Cheesecake Factory where Penny works, where he finally gets his answer. But the true highlight of the episode when Leonard gets a call in the middle of the night that he has to pick Sheldon up at a local mall, where he is using the plastic balls in a children's ball pit to build carbon atoms. As Leonard desperately tries to get him out of the pit so they can go home, Sheldon keeps diving in and popping out of the balls, shouting Bazinga 7. The Pants Alternative, Season 3, Episode 18. Sheldon is chosen to receive an award at the university and has to give an acceptance speech. He doesn't like public speaking and tries to back out, but the gang offers to help him. Penny takes him shopping for a new suit, Raj tries to treat him with meditation, and Leonard gives him a psychological assessment. None of it helps Sheldon calm down, and when the night comes, he's so nervous that Penny convinces him to drink. He gets drunk and ends up mooning the audience while on stage, but not before telling this gem of a nerdy joke. A neutron walks into a bar and asks how much a drink is. The bartender says for you, no charge. Bazinga 8. The Staircase Implementation, Season 3, Episode 22. This flashback episode finally gave viewers two of the answers they'd been waiting for: how Sheldon and Leonard first met and how the elevator in their building got permanently broken. Both stories are hilarious, particularly when Leonard recounts all the hoops Sheldon made him jump through just to see the apartment. The episode proves that, yes, believe it or not, there was a time when these guys were even more socially inept. The best moment of the episode when Leonard walks into his soon-to-be bedroom, see a spray painted from Sheldon's ex-roommate Die, Sheldon, Die. 9. The Cruciferous Vegetable Amplification, Season 4, Episode 2. When Sheldon works out that he won't live long enough to download his consciousness into a robot body, he attempts to extend his lifespan by changing his diet and eating cruciferous vegetables. When those only serve to give him gas, he instead decides to build a mobile virtual presence device, which leads to countless funny moments. Case in point, Leonard trying to turn off Sheldon while driving his virtual presence to work, and Sheldon trying to figure out how to open his office door, considering his device has no hands. Major bonus: Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak appears in one of the show's best cameos. 10. The Prestidigitation Approximation, Season 4, Episode 18. What bugs Sheldon even more than the thought of other people's germs finding a puzzle that he can't solve, as seen in this episode. When Howard performs a magic trick, Sheldon, much to his annoyance, can't figure out how it's done. He tries every solution, to no avail, and Howard, enjoying his new power over Sheldon, only continues to rub it in his face. Meanwhile, Priya feels threatened by Penny and tells Leonard to stop hanging out with her. Funniest reveal: the entire gang has been in on Howard's card trick and has just been messing with Sheldon. 11. The Love Spell Potential, Season 6, Episode 23. As the girls plan a trip to Vegas, the boys excitedly organize a Dungeons & Dragons marathon. The trip ends up not working out thanks to Amy, and the entire group ends up playing the game. Sheldon and Amy take their relationship to the next level after the rest of the group casts a love spell on their game characters. Meanwhile, Raj goes on date with Lucy, a girl who is even more shy than he is. Bonus: Howard brings major laughs as the Dungeon Master, incorporating impressions of celebrities like Christopher Walken and Al Pacino. 12. The Prom Equivalency, Season 8, Episode 8. The girls decide to reenact their high school proms with the guys since no one except for Penny had memorable ones. Sounds like a cheesy premise, but this episode is actually filled with charming and funny moments, as everyone reacts differently to the thought of having a prom. While most are excited, Sheldon is having a panic attack because he knows sex is often a presumed part of prom night. In the end, both central couples have great moments. Leonard and Penny share a sweet dance on the roof, during which they lightheartedly riff on Leonard's insecurities. Meanwhile, as Amy dances around the idea of telling Sheldon that she loves him, he beats her to the punch, leading to one of the sweetest moments in their long-running relationship. Check out Entertainment Cheat Sheet on Facebook.